The armored vehicle was invented to break the trench stalemate of 1916, promising a swift end to industrialized slaughter. Yet over the next century, the tank did not eliminate the brutal friction of modern ground warfare. It simply accelerated it across 108 years of military history. The British Landship Committee sought a mechanical solution to barbed wire and machine gun fire. Weighing 28 tons, it crawled at 4 miles per hour on a massive rhomboid chassis, manned by a crew of 8. Deployed on the 15th of September 1916 at Flers-Courcelette, it terrified defenders but suffered massive mechanical attrition. Toxic fumes and extreme heat inside the hull incapacitated operators faster than enemy fire. History remembered the birth of mechanized warfare. The crews remembered choking on carbon monoxide. French engineers broke from the clumsy box designs of early armor to create a modern layout. At merely 7 tons, it carried a crew of 2 and achieved 5 miles per hour, featuring the first fully rotating turret. It operated in swarms during 1918, proving that small, mass-produced vehicles outmatched heavy landships. 3,000 units flooded the front lines. It was designed to support infantry breakthroughs. It is remembered for establishing the blueprint of every tank ever built. The Wehrmacht intended this vehicle purely for infantry support, leaving anti-tank duties to lighter models. Originally 25 tons with a low-velocity 75mm gun, it reached 25 miles per hour. As heavier Soviet armor appeared, the chassis was forced to accept high-velocity cannons and thicker armor it was never meant to carry. It became the backbone of German armored divisions by 1943. 8,500 built, 6,000 lost. The math tells the rest. Soviet designers combined sloped armor, wide tracks, and a powerful engine to survive the Eastern Front. It weighed 26 tons, carried a 76mm gun, and pushed 33 miles per hour. Its arrival shocked German commanders in 1941, rendering standard anti-tank guns useless. However, early models lacked radios, blinding commanders in combat and causing horrific casualty rates during Operation Barbarossa. On paper, it was the perfect medium tank. In practice, crude optics and poor ergonomics bled its crews dry. The United States required a tank that could be mass-produced and shipped across oceans. The 30-ton machine mounted a 75mm gun and reached 24 miles per hour. It prioritized reliability and ease of transport over raw combat power. While it struggled against heavier German Cats in 1944, nearly 50,000 units overwhelmed the enemy through sheer logistical superiority. They ordered a peerless combat vehicle. They got the ultimate logistical weapon. Britain sought a universal tank to replace the divided concepts of cruiser and infantry armor, altering military engineering history. At 51 tons, it introduced the legendary 105mm rifled gun, advancing at 21 miles per hour. Arriving too late for the Second World War, it instead dominated the Middle East and Korea, proving that firepower and armor trumped raw speed in defensive engagements. The Centurion solved the cruiser tank vulnerability problem. It created a decades-long reliance on heavy, slow armor. Soviet doctrine required a vehicle capable of surviving a nuclear battlefield and exploiting atomic breaches. Weighing 36 tons, it featured a 100mm gun and nuclear biological chemical protection, running at 31 miles per hour. Over 100,000 were manufactured, flooding proxy wars globally. Yet the cramped interior restricted crew height to 5'5" and lacked basic ventilation, making desert operations unbearable. It was unstoppable on a spreadsheet. It was a metal tomb in the Sinai. Conceived as a stopgap measure against new Soviet designs, the United States rushed it into production. The 50-ton vehicle utilized a 105mm gun, reaching 30 miles per hour. It never fought the Soviet army in Europe. Instead, it bore the brunt of Israeli armored thrusts in 1973, absorbing massive damage from guided missiles while keeping crews alive through pure structural bulk. America wanted a temporary European defender. The Middle Eastern deserts had other plans. Following the failure of joint international projects, the Pentagon demanded uncompromising technological supremacy. This 68-ton behemoth uses a 1,500 horsepower turbine to achieve 45 miles per hour. During 1991, it destroyed hundreds of Iraqi tanks without a single combat loss to enemy fire. Yet its massive fuel consumption required an unprecedented logistical tether that slowed strategic advances. History remembered its flawless combat record in Desert Storm. The logisticians remembered refueling it every 8 hours. Russia designed a next-generation platform featuring an unmanned turret to reclaim global armored dominance. At 55 tons, it mounts a 125mm gun, claiming a speed of 50 miles per hour. Announced with fanfare, the program stalled due to sanctions and manufacturing constraints. When major conflict erupted in 2022, the vaunted fleet remained largely absent, leaving older Soviet chassis to fight. On paper, it was the most advanced tank ever built. In practice, it was a parade square prop. Germany built a psychological weapon disguised as a heavy tank. Weighing 54 tons with an 88mm gun, it reached 24 miles per hour. During 1943 at Kursk, it shattered Soviet armor at ranges exceeding 1 mile. However, the over-engineered transmission failed constantly, forcing their crews to abandon vehicles. They ordered a battlefield dominator. They got a logistical nightmare. The United States finally acknowledged the need to counter heavy German armor. The 46-ton vehicle mounted a 90mm gun, reaching 25 miles per hour. Rushed to Europe in 1945, it successfully destroyed Panther tanks during the advance. Yet its underpowered engine struggled, making the machine mechanically unreliable. It solved the firepower deficit. It created a mobility crisis. Britain engineered a fortress intended to survive highly lethal environments. Weighing 71 tons with a 120mm gun, it reaches 37 miles per hour. In 2003, one absorbed 14 rockets without penetration. However, unique rifled ammunition completely isolated it from Allied supply chains. On paper, it was impregnable. In practice, it became a logistical orphan. Israel prioritized crew survival above all other engineering metrics. Weighing 70 tons with a 1,500 horsepower engine, it travels at 40 miles per hour. Deployed across Lebanon, rear clamshell doors allow infantry evacuation under direct fire. Despite extreme protection, its specialized urban design severely limits strategic mobility. They ordered a tank. They got an armored troop carrier. West Germany sought the perfect balance of mobility and firepower to halt a Soviet invasion. The 62-ton machine mounts a 120mm smoothbore gun, sprinting at 42 miles per hour. It later served in Afghanistan, proving highly lethal but vulnerable to improvised explosive devices. Germany wanted a defensive shield. The global export market had other plans. The Soviet Union required a cheap, mass-producible alternative to elite armor. At 45 tons with a 125mm gun, it hits 37 miles per hour. 25,000 units spearheaded global proxy wars. However, exposed ammunition stored beneath crews caused catastrophic turret explosions during the Gulf War. 25,000 built, thousands catastrophically lost. The math tells the rest. France engineered a light, air-transportable vehicle to project power across its empire. Weighing 14 tons with a 75mm gun, it reached 37 miles per hour. During 1967, it proved highly lethal in fast Israeli ambushes, yet the external autoloader held only 12 rounds, forcing highly vulnerable reloading. History remembered the innovative turret. The crews remembered reloading under fire. French doctrine demanded an impenetrable vehicle to crush fortified lines. The 31-ton machine carried a 75mm howitzer, crawling at 17 miles per hour. In 1940, it absorbed dozens of German rounds at Stone. However, heavy fuel consumption and a one-man turret doomed it. It was a magnificent World War I design. It fought in World War II. The Pentagon demanded an air-droppable vehicle with extremely heavy firepower. The 16-ton chassis mounted a 152mm gun, reaching 43 miles per hour. Deployed to Vietnam in 1969, caseless ammunition absorbed moisture, detonating prematurely. Meanwhile, the thin hull melted when struck by rocket-propelled grenades. They ordered a mobile reconnaissance platform. They got a deadly aluminum trap. Japan required a tank capable of navigating narrow mountain roads and weak civilian bridges. Weighing 44 tons with a 120mm gun, It reaches 43 miles per hour. Advanced hydropneumatic suspension allows the hull to lean into tight corners seamlessly. Yet strict defense doctrines confine it indefinitely. On paper, an engineering marvel. In practice, a localized prisoner. Soviet planners wanted an impenetrable breakthrough vehicle for winter assaults. At 45 tons with a 76mm gun, it reached 21 miles per hour. During 1941, single units halted entire German divisions, forcing opponents to rethink invasion strategies. However, the transmission routinely shattered under immense weight. It was designed to spearhead assaults. It is remembered for stalling entire invasions. The United States required immediate firepower while developing a proper turreted chassis. Weighing 27 tons, it mounted a 75mm gun in a fixed sponson, hitting 24 miles per hour. Rushed to North Africa in 1942, its high silhouette drew fire while the awkward gun placement exposed the hull. It provided crucial numbers. It killed crews who operated it. Swedish engineers eliminated the turret to build an ambush predator. At 42 tons, it aimed its 105mm gun via tracks, reaching 31 miles per hour. It promised unmatched survivability in defensive forest warfare during the Cold War. Yet a single damaged track destroyed its ability to aim. On paper, an invisible sniper. In practice, a paralyzed pillbox. South Korea developed a highly networked mountain fighter to operate independently from foreign supply chains. The 61-ton vehicle mounts a 120mm gun, sprinting at 43 miles per hour. Its active protection systems defeat incoming missiles automatically. However, localizing complex transmission manufacturing delayed operational deployment for years. It solved battlefield survival. It created severe industrial delays. Imperial Germany answered British armor with an enormous steel box carrying an 18-man crew. Weighing 33 tons, it fired a 57mm gun while crawling at 9 miles per hour. Deployed blindly in 1918, its exceptionally low ground clearance wedged it firmly into muddy defensive trenches. 20 combat units built, 20 units lost. The math tells the brutal rest. British planners envisioned a static trench conflict demanding slow, heavily armored support. Weighing 39 tons, it mounted a 57mm gun, maxing at 15 miles per hour. By 1944, deep mud and steep hills stopped faster tanks, leaving only this obsolete crawler capable of navigating the ruined terrain. They ordered a trench crosser. They got an unstoppable hill climber. The Soviet military needed a reconnaissance vehicle capable of crossing European rivers without bridge support. At 14 tons with a 76mm gun, it swam at 6 miles per hour. During 1968, the armor proved so dangerously thin that heavy machine guns routinely pierced the outer hull. The Soviets wanted an amphibious scout. Standard combat rifles had other plans. American commanders demanded an agile reconnaissance platform to replace aging wartime light armor. Weighing 23 tons with a 76mm cannon, it sped at 45 miles per hour. Deployed heavily across Vietnam, its loud engine ruined stealth missions, while voracious fuel consumption severely limited operational ranges. History remembered its incredible speed. The crews remembered running empty in the hostile jungle. Germany designed an apex predator specifically to counter outnumbering Soviet armor on the Eastern Front. Weighing 45 tons with a lethal 75mm gun, it reached 34 miles per hour. During 1943, rushed untested engines immediately caught fire, destroying more units internally than Soviet artillery directly managed. On paper, it was flawlessly superior. In practice, a combustible mechanical liability. The old gang designed an 81-ton landship expecting a repeat of the muddy trench stalemate. It carried a 76mm gun and crawled at exactly 8 miles per hour. By 1941, rapid blitzkrieg maneuver warfare rendered its entire design philosophy instantly obsolete before ever entering production. It was designed to cross trenches. It is remembered for missing them.